around the big shot Terry in the Hong Kong entertainment circle. There are two pampered young girls. One coquetthes, like alls him, little uncle. The other bewitches him to the point of losing his head on the bed. The latter is me. And the former is Candy, who hates me to the bone. She is willful and shrewd, and her methods are ruthless. On the day she pushed me into the sea, she laughed so hard that she could hardly stand up straight. Despicable canary. Dared to compete with me for favor. Throw you into the sea to feed the fish. Throw me in then. Anyway, I'm pregnant with Terry's child. And I'm just thinking about how to make him the angriest. Terry has a strong influence in both the underworld and the upper class in Hong Kong. Paparazzi say he is ruthless and not interested in women. 2 years ago, with my innocent-looking yet alluring face like a delicate white flower, I quietly showed up beside the big shot. Only when I got closer did I realize that he was by no means an ascetic. On many hazy nights, Terry took off his cold and aloof mask. He tore off the sexy little black camisolo on me, and dragged me into the abyss of passion together. The high-end, dry bedding was soaked with sweat, tainted with the manly scent of a man. On July 14th, the day when, according to legend, the gates of hell open wide, Terry came back to the villa drunk. The night was as black as ink. He took off his well-tailored suit and raised his hand to me. I obediently walked over and sat on his strong and long legs. The dim light fell. Terry was filled with intense emotions. I cupped his well-defined face and planted kisses all over his eyes, nose, mouth, and then to his sensitive Adam's apple. The man beneath me chuckled softly. Only with you can I have a moment of peace. I know. Terry fought his way out of family feuds. Brothers turned against each other and inflicted harm on one another. He is extremely suspicious. Any woman who gets close, whether she is a popular actress or a potential marriage partner, is seen as having ulterior motives. Except me. Oh, that's not entirely true. There is another girl. Candy. In terms of seniority, Terry has been doting on her for a longer time. Look. She dares to call at 3 in the morning. He pressed the hands-free button, and a sobbing sound came from the other end. Today is Dad's death anniversary, and I dreamed of him again. Little uncle. Can you come and keep me company? I limply draped myself over the man, clinging to his neck and refusing to let go. It's not advisable to go out late at night on the ghost festival. How about going at dawn? Meeting Terry's cold, emotional's gaze. I obediently climbed down. My expression was full of loss and worry. Seeing me turn my back, he pushed aside the messy hair on his fair neck and forcefully kissed my earlobe. Candy is just a child. Don't be fussy with her. Right. Those who are pampered in the palm of someone's hand are always children. No matter how old they are. Even though she is 1 year older than me. I angrily kicked the man. If she is a child, what am I? Terry reluctantly picked me up and kissed my moist red lips again and again. You are a little vixen. Irresistible. I blushed with shame, buried my head in the quilt, and made a shy and reluctant sound. Ask Uncle Chen to drive for you. Drunk driving will get you caught by the police. Yes. When closing the door, his gaze was unexpectedly gentle without him even realizing it. This is not the first time Candy has snatched someone away from me. When she is drunk. When she has an argument with her friends. When she is harassed by men on the street. She always has reasons to make Terry rush to her side. Even those well-informed paparazzi, having seen how indulgent he is towards this girl, are secretly astounded. He added, she is just a little girl with an immature mind. Just avoid her in the future. Candy is truly the apple of Terry's eye. I lowered my head and played with the tie clip on his shirt with my snow-white fingertips. I know. I won't compete with Miss Zhang for anything. It's her birthday on Saturday. I'll go and apologize then. Terry showed a satisfied look. I've booked a cruise ship for Candy as a birthday present. If you like it, I'll give you one in the future too. I don't care for things that are the same as others. If I want something, it has to be better. looking into Terry's lust-filled eyes. I obediently kissed him. The things you give are so precious. It seems that I also need to prepare a lavish gift for Miss Zhang. A precious gift that she would never expect. Candy really is number one in Terry's heart. He has a million things to do every day. And his schedule is all arranged. It's hard to squeeze in an extra moment. To celebrate her birthday, he specially took out a day from his busy schedule and took me to a yacht party. The scene was very lively. Besides Candy's wild-playing girlfriends, there were also the male models they liked. The moment she saw me, the birthday girl's face fell. Who would want to see the most hated person on the happiest day? I remained calm and smilingly presented the gift I had wrapped myself. Candy sneered, "Shabby." Terry rubbed her head. "Aren't the jewels and sports cars I gave you enough? Get along well with Stella." Candy got even angrier. She ran to her girlfriends and said sarcastically that I was very good at seducing men. Seeing that I didn't take the bait and Terry was busy with a teleconference all the time, she took off her $1,000,000 watch and threw it into the sea in a fit of pique. Whoever picks it up can keep it. Male models with an average height of 1.85 meters jumped into the water one after another in a scramble. Candy had no intention of watching. She just wanted to make Terry jealous. I seemed a little helpless. Lowering my voice, I sighed and said, "Don't blame your young uncle. He has always been busy. In the past, he only accompanied me at night. Knowing it was a Hongmen banquet, I still went." Mr. Kai was a fat and greasy middle-aged man. Privately, he was known as the Invincible Groper. At the dinner party, his eyes sparkled as he looked at me. "I heard that Miss Xu graduated from a prestigious school, is very capable, and has an excellent figure." Candy was drinking wine beside us. "Mr. Kai, Stella is very open-minded. She learned a lot from her sugar daddy in college. Otherwise, how could she be far ahead of her peers? She was so afraid that others wouldn't know that I was being kept that she tried her best to slander me." Mr. Kai laughed heartily. "I like girls who are sensible and interesting the most. We can talk slowly about the contract in bed." I looked on coldly. Soon, my head was dizzy, and I lay limply on the wine table. Candy and Mr. Kai exchanged a meaningful look and laughed. "Stella's drinking capacity is really bad. Mr. Kai, the room has been booked. Take good care of her tonight." Mr. Kai took the room key skillfully and helped me, who was unsteady on my feet, upstairs. As soon as we entered the room, he took off all his clothes. His cheeks were flushed from drinking, looking exactly like a half-cooked piggy. I suddenly opened my eyes and wanted to rush out of the door. Mr. Kai had a sly grin on his face. "Candy has locked the door. She won't come until dawn. Little beauty. She said that as long as someone can afford the price, anyone can sleep with you. I'm rich. Follow me in the future. Have 3 or 5 smart children, and I'll marry you." Candy often went to bars behind Terry's back. She associated with all kinds of people. She liked to get girls drunk and defile their innocence. She thought that by getting Mr. Kai to ruin me, Terry would completely despise me. What a clever plan. But I had expected everything. The wine they prepared and the room they arranged tonight had all been swapped. I pretended to be drugged, just waiting for this moment. When Mr. Kai staggered towards me, I threw all his clothes out of the window one by one and climbed out of the window. The floor was not high. Shouting would alert the security guards downstairs. Passers-by thought I was going to commit suicide and immediately took out their mobile phones to call the police. Mr. Kai, who was drugged, was completely unaware of all this. When he saw that I wanted to run, he shouted that the cooked duck couldn't fly away. From the perspective of passers-by, a naked, fat pig wanted to climb out of the window to catch me. "Beauty, come back quickly." There was a smile on my lips. Without hesitation, I jumped down. 14. Many people photographed this thrilling scene. A female employee of C's group jumped from a hotel to escape the persecution of the unscrupulous businessman. Her life or death was unknown. What a sensational headline. For the sake of popularity, someone dug up the whole story of that night. Soon it was found out that Candy had drugged my wine, got me drunk, and handed me over to Boss Guy. The public was outraged. They accused the management of C's group of sending female employees to other people's beds in order to get orders. Some victims came forward to testify. This was not the first time Candy had harmed female employees. She was not sincerely trying to create performance for the company, but was jealous that female employees were appreciated by Terry and used others to get rid of them. For a while, those women who had been close to Terry and later disappeared or lost their innocence were dug out and talked about with great relish. It couldn't be suppressed. Candy alone pushed the company into the spotlight. The share price of C's group was greatly affected. When Terry came back, I was in the hospital. I was fine, except that my leg was a little injured. That night, when I jumped off the building, I landed on the air mattress prepared by the lifeguard. Terry's eyes were complex. I knelt down quickly and was the first to speak. Mr. C, I'm sorry. I didn't know things would get so big. But I didn't expect that Candy would drug my wine even more. He was silent. For the mistakes Candy made, Terry was very busy every day. He might not be fully aware of all the details. He only needed to give an order, and someone would naturally take care of it. However, from the moment he unconditionally indulged her, Terry was doomed to become an accomplice. Because of the great power he held, he was more unforgivable than an ordinary executioner. 15. Terry still couldn't be cruel in the end. Candy whined and cried, claiming that she had no father to teach her. So she accidentally did something wrong. And he compromised. It was so ridiculous. There were so many orphans in the world. Why didn't others be as narrow-minded and ruthless as her? However, Terry sensed something was wrong. The people who reported Candy this time were supported by a certain force. They even dug out cases that he had suppressed before. The shareholders were worried. They demanded that Candy be removed from the company. Terry had a cold face and told her not to make trouble recently. He didn't even scold her much. Candy was incorrigible. Pointing at me, she shouted, "It's all your fault. Couldn't you just lie in bed? Boss Guy was so good in bed. Why did you jump off the building? I didn't even need to do it myself." Terry couldn't bear it any longer. He slapped her hard. "Shut up. I've been too indulgent with you." She couldn't believe it. "Young uncle, you actually hit me for this woman? Go and reflect on your mistakes, or I'll cut off your card." Candy wanted to hit me, but was forcibly taken away by the bodyguards. She didn't understand. No man is willing to be cuckolded. Even if Terry regarded me as a docile plaything, he wouldn't easily allow others to have a finger in the pie. 16. Terry was extremely exhausted. As a person living on the edge, he had some gray area business overseas. Recently, someone had been plotting against him secretly, causing quite a stir. I was like a gentle and understanding flower, listening patiently. He opened a bottle of Martelland and knowingly drank nearly half of it. Then he passed out in my arms. I gently guided him to talk a lot about Candy's father. Candy's father used to be a gangster, and did quite well in the underworld. During the time when Terry was being bullied, he regarded Candy's father as a brother. Later, when Candy's father fought his way back to the C family, he killed the eldest son of the first wife. And the youngest son also became a vegetable. An eye for an eye. That year, on July 14th, Candy's father was attacked and seriously injured. Terry knew clearly that without his all-out fight, it would be very difficult for him to seize power quickly. He murmured, "Do you think I spoil Candy too much? I owe it to her father." Before he died, he entrusted his daughter to me, asking me to let her go to a good university and have a good job, so that she wouldn't have to live a dangerous life. Once a person has a soft spot, he is easily manipulated. I lulled him to sleep. I was extremely resentful in my heart. Terry did owe Candy's father. But what about those who had been hurt by Candy? How innocent they were. 17 I took Candy's place and stood beside Terry. At the same time, a big piece of news broke out. The body of an 18-line actress was fished out by fishermen in the vast sea. She was stuffed in a suitcase. Naked, with obvious strangulation marks on her neck. It sparked a heated discussion on the internet. The last time the actress was seen was approaching Terry in a hotel, but was stopped by Candy. Although there was no evidence indicating that she did it herself. But over the years, Candy's arrogant and domineering appearance had left a deep impression on people. Since she was a child, she had had a smooth life and had done a lot of bullying. It was just covered up by others. At present, Terry was busy cleaning up the mess overseas and had no time to care about it. Candy vented her anger on me. She thought that the jumping off the building incident I caused had to widen influence, which made her the target of public criticism. That night, Terry returned to China ahead of schedule and asked me to drive to the airport to pick him up. There was a car accident on the way. His head was hit and his thigh was stuck. When the car was about to catch fire, I ignored the danger and dragged him out desperately. Moved, Terry ordered a thorough investigation. It was found that the brake pads of the car I drove had been tampered with. Dr. Uncle Chen provided the surveillance video, which showed that Candy had sneaked into the garage. Unfortunately, it didn't capture the scene of her directly committing the crime. The dash cam was also damaged. I threw myself into Terry's arms, regarding President Kai's matter. Candy must still be blaming me. But you were so kind to her. You really shouldn't be implicated. His voice was cold and unfeeling. Send her abroad and give her $3,000 of living expenses every month. 18 Candy came to the villa to make a fuss several times but was stopped by bodyguards. I looked down at her from above. Thanks to you. The doctor said that your little uncle had a brain injury and needed to rest. Bitch. Why wasn't it you who died? She wanted to rush forward but was slapped by me. How dare you hit me? I slapped her again. When she was seeing stars from the blows, I happily handed her the overseas flight ticket. Go abroad and learn your lesson. Don't make your little uncle unhappy again. Affection will eventually be worn out one day. In the past, when Candy hurt others, Terry turned a blind eye. Only when the misfortune befell himself did he know how painful it was. Without the protection umbrella, all kinds of vengeful people would come for revenge. Seeing that Candy refused to leave, I sighed. He really doesn't want to see you. Otherwise, when he went abroad for treatment, why didn't he tell you a single word? She grabbed the sports car keys and wanted to go back to the company to inquire about Terry's whereabouts. On the winding mountain road, the road was extremely slippery after the rain. Candy always liked to drive at high speed. As she liked, she floored the accelerator. When turning, she wanted to avoid the oncoming car suddenly, but found that the brakes had failed. On such a rainy night, the $1 million sports car rushed down the cliff, and she was gone. 19 I didn't expect that the first one to take action was actually Uncle Chen. Actually, a long time ago, I had found out a terrible thing. Candy had killed Uncle Chen's own granddaughter. She used a piece of candy to lure a 3-year-old girl to walk towards the swimming pool and watched her drown. Candy thought that no one knew about it and still hypocritically comforted Uncle Chen, that the dead could not be brought back to life. Uncle Chen was an honest man and had worked in the Sea family all his life. He wanted to take revenge, but without evidence and fearing that the rest of the family would be retaliated against by Terry. He could only wait for the right opportunity. After I found out that he had installed a bug in Terry's car, I proposed to team up. Candy didn't know until she died that we unimportant people all hated her to the bone. Uncle Chen had cancer and knew that his days were numbered, taking advantage of Terry's being preoccupied. Before Candy went abroad, he sent her away with his own hands. I sighed. Even if she hadn't been killed, the evidence of murder we had collected was enough to send her to prison for a lifetime. Uncle Chen coughed violently and spat out a pool of blood. It doesn't matter. If God doesn't punish the bad guys, then I will. It's better to let her die than to have a chance of being rescued in prison. I could feel the hatred in him deeply. Many years ago, Candy was drunk driving and racing, which resulted in a death. She was seen by a girl named Penny. Penny refused bribes and didn't want to leave Hong Kong City. She just wanted the murderer to be punished by the law. After Candy found someone to take the blame for her, in a fit of anger, she sold Penny to northern Myanmar. When she was dead drunk, she showed off to those wild-playing sisters. "If anyone offends you, just leave it to me. My father's former henchmen have great power in northern Myanmar. They can rape and then kill for you. And we can also make money from selling her kidneys." Poor Penny. She couldn't return to China until she died. I found out all these things later. Almost no one knew that Penny's sister had once taught as a volunteer in our village. Such a kind and excellent girl had studied hard to earn money for her living expenses, and finally got into a postgraduate program in Hong Kong City, just because she witnessed Candy killing someone with her own eyes. Her whole life was ruined. Those who bring firewood for others should not freeze to death in the snowstorm. 20. When Ari heard the news of Candy's death, he was stunned for a long time. But it was not the first time that she had an accident while racing, so he didn't order a thorough investigation. As for the luxury car that rushed down the cliff, he just asked Uncle Chen to notify people to clean it up. It was normal for him not to care. His brain and body were injured, and his consciousness couldn't be highly concentrated. Misfortunes never come singly. The police found out that many cases committed by Candy were all facts. Car accident causing homicide cases. And she also had close contacts with criminal gangs in northern Myanmar. It was just that all these had been covered up before. As her protector, Terry had an inescapable responsibility. When he was taken away for investigation, the youngest son of the original wife of the C family recovered. The company shareholders and the C family turned against him, dismissed Terry and drove him out of the C family. Terry showed up furiously and asked me if I had betrayed him. I blinked my innocent big eyes. "Mr. C, when you were injured and admitted to the hospital, you signed the power of attorney and left everything to me to handle. In other words, you betrayed yourself." He looked at me in disbelief. "Stella, I was so good to you. Why did you betray me?" "You should ask yourself that. You favored Candy time and time again. Have you ever thought about the people she hurt? For the sake of loyalty. You didn't even care that she killed your child." Terry had nothing to say. The successive blows in recent days had made him physically and mentally exhausted. With a scruffy beard, he didn't look half as noble and handsome as before. After being dejected for a few seconds, he looked up at me. "From the very beginning, did you plan to get close to me? For a volunteer teacher, you dragged me into hell?" "Yes. You could protect the daughter of a gang boss. Why couldn't I uphold justice for my kind sister? Then, did you ever love me?" Maybe there was a moment of heartbeat, but it disappeared completely during the process when you indulged Candy time and time again. If possible, I would rather she had never hurt the innocent. And I had never met you. 21. When I was about to leave, Mrs. C, who had regained her power, gave me a large sum of money. At the beginning, the means by which Terry took over were too cruel, which made the original wife and her son extremely miserable. In order to take revenge, I found her and formed an alliance with her. Mrs. C agreed. But at that time, her youngest son was being treated abroad. The young master, who had been in a vegetative state, showed signs of waking up. I collected evidence of Candy's crimes in Hong Kong City and gradually won Terry's trust. When the time was right, Mrs. C provided assistance from behind. Since the incident with General Manager Kai, public opinion had been fermenting, and she had played an important role in fueling it. Terry would not have an easy life in his later years. His brain was damaged, which affected his limb movements. He was also sent to northern Myanmar by Mrs. C's people. The stronghold there was destroyed because of Candy's influence. When Terry got there, his days would not be easy. On the day of his arrival, his legs were broken. I didn't pay attention to what happened later, because he didn't deserve it. 22. Back at the school in the mountains. I donated a large sum of money in Penny's name. I found the old apple tree and carved Penny's sister's name on it. Once. In this place. She told me about the outside world. When I dropped out of school, she brought me back to school. After my biological father killed my mother, he broke my leg, which made me so desperate that I wanted to jump into the river. Penny's sister pulled me back from death. She said, even in the gutter, look up at the stars. She changed my name from Xiaodi to Stella, hoping that I would have poems in my heart and stars in my eyes. When she noticed that I limped, Penny's sister was extremely heartbroken. The doctor in the town said that my bone was broken and that if I didn't have an operation soon, there would be no cure in the future. She was not well off financially, but she begged everywhere and borrowed money to force me into the best hospital. It could be said that without this kind-hearted girl, my life would be like a stagnant pool, stinking and rotting in the mountains. After the operation was successful, I asked Penny's sister, we just met by chance. Why were you so good to me? Penny's sister smiled. She said that she was also an orphan. She grew up on food provided by hundreds of families and was supported by the poor villagers. So she had the opportunity to study. Later, Penny's sister got into a very good university and went to the prosperous Hong Kong city to study for a postgraduate degree. She planned to make money and repay those who had helped her. But an unexpected disaster dragged her into the darkness. When I learned that Sister Penny had been sold to northern Myanmar, her organs were stolen, and she had endured great humiliation. The light of my faith was suddenly extinguished. Before the operation on my injured leg, Sister Penny held me. Who was frightened? Stella. Do you know? Some people say that the earliest sign of civilization was a healed femur. It is longer than your injured leg bone, connecting the hip and the knee. In the primitive society with scarce medical resources, it takes at least 6 weeks to heal when injured. In order to take care of the injured, the companions took on the responsibilities of hunting, gathering, protecting and accompanying. In the law of the jungle, it represents sympathy, compassion, charity and empathy. I think that, like me, you were once a weak person who was injured. If everyone were cold-hearted and looked on indifferently, civilization would not have continued so gloriously. Sister Penny was like a brilliant starry sky, guiding me in the direction of progress. For the rest of my life, I will take over her banner and pass on the kindness,